Hello, welcome to episode 1 of Beyond the Headlines with Rachel Cooper. I'm Rachel Cooper, your host. For the last 50 years, the headlines have decided how much knowledge consumers get to have about the world, politics, and the culture war. But we know that the claims that they make are never the full story. If you're a Gen Z conservative, there's a good chance that you know generally what you believe, but maybe you don't know exactly why you believe it. So that's what this show is dedicated to, going beyond conservative talking points to give you the knowledge to know what you believe and why you believe it. Today we're going to be discussing the controversies surrounding the H1B visa policy. If you're in college, there's a good chance that you've heard this claim being thrown around quite a bit, but maybe you don't know exactly what it is or how it affects you. So today we're going to be talking exactly about what the H1B visa policy is, what changes the Trump administration brought to it, and then I'll go ahead and go over some of my opinions on the conservative split and how conservatives are currently not sure where exactly we're falling. Some are agreeing with Trump and some are disagreeing. Now, what is the H1B visa policy? George Bush Sr. originally signed into law the Immigration Act of 1990, and that established the H-1B visa, which is a program that allows foreign workers to come to the United States for a temporary time and permitted that they are working in the United States. It's a policy to try and help foreign workers with good skill and aid to come to the United States so we can bolster the economy. That is the overall purpose of the policy. Now, in order to do this, employers must help fill out an application, and on behalf of the worker, they must give a certain payment, a certain amount of money with the application. Now, prior to the Trump administration's changes, this was around $2,000 to $7,000, depending on the size of the company. All of the new applications yearly are capped at $65,000. So that does not include anyone that's already in the United States who already has a visa. This is just new applications. Only 65,000 are accepted per year. There are sometimes temporary changes to that based on what the economy needs, based on the situation. As well as there's an extra 20,000 allotted for anyone who has a higher degree above just an undergraduate bachelor's degree. Now, any year in which there is above 65,000 applications, the applications are accepted based on the lottery system. And so basically they're just accepted on randomly. There's no specific criteria above the basic criteria. So the change that the Trump administration has made to this is that any new application or petition must be accompanied by no longer $2,000 to $7,000, but $100,000. That is the payment that must be accompanied with any new petition. Now, the Trump administration's reasoning for doing this is very America first. That is the reason they have given out. They put out a proclamation sheet entitled Restriction on Entry of Certain Non-Immigrant Workers. What they said here is some employers using practices now widely adopted by entire sectors have abused the H-1B statute and its regulations to artificially suppress wages, resulting in a disadvantageous labor market for American citizens, while at the same time making it more difficult to attract and retain the highest skilled subset of temporary workers, with the largest impact seen in critical science, technology, engineering, and math, or STEM fields. Okay, so what are the claims that the Trump administration is making here? They are saying that the wages of American workers are being artificially suppressed, that we are seeing less jobs going to American workers, and that our foreign security is at risk. They're saying all of this because the U.S. workers, the U.S. Employers are abusing the system. What they mean by this is that when foreign workers come into the United States, they are much more desperate for work than American-born citizens. They're willing to work at a much lower wage. They're willing to work at lower wages than what American citizens would be. And so because of that, in different fields where we have a high amount of H-1B visa workers, we're going to see the wages be maybe not $120,000 a year, but $50,000 or something like that. It varies across the board. So a lot of Americans have been laid off from their jobs to hire foreign workers. The White House also put out this fact sheet on September 19th. And what they said here was unemployment among recent computer science graduates has reached 6.1% and 7.5% for computer engineering graduates, more than double the rates for biology or art history majors. The number of foreign STEM workers in the United States has more than doubled between 2000 and 2019, while overall STEM employment only increased 44.5% during that time. So basically what they're saying here is that we haven't seen a huge growth in these fields, but we have seen a huge growth in the amount of workers that we are bringing in. The concern here is that we've disincentivized U.S. workers and U.S. students from pursuing STEM fields. And that is why this policy has been put in place. Now, this is where we are seeing the conservative movement split. Is this good for the economy or is this bad for the economy? This was an article put out that I think really encapsulates the conservative side and the conservative movement that has sided with Donald Trump. It's from the Heritage Foundation. It's from Simon Hankinson, and it's titled, "Trump's H1B Visa Reform Plan Needs to Put Americans First." He says, Amazon, Intel, Google, Microsoft, and many other companies have let American workers go while they continue to hire thousands of H1Bs. Companies predictably deny any connection between the two phenomena, but laid-off U.S. workers insist otherwise. In some cases, companies even require Americans they are sacking to train their foreign replacements. All right, so that is the main concern of conservatives that agree with Trump. We will not have jobs for our children when they graduate. But my opinion is that this is not going to hurt American-born workers. This is not going to hurt the American economy. The H-1B workers in America will help the economy. And that's just because of some basic laws of economics. One of them being that when the cost of production is increased, that will inevitably increase the cost to the consumer. If you've never heard of the broken window theory, the broken window analogy of economics, it perfectly represents this issue. The idea, or the story behind the idea, is that there's a baker whose window is broken by a local hoodlum. And the crowd surrounding the baker shop begins to theorize and say, oh, you know, this is a loss for the baker. This is sad for the baker, but it's a gain for the community. Because in the hoodlum breaking this window, we now have seen that the baker must go hire the window repairman to fix the window. And so, of course, actually, the window breaking was such a great thing because now this window repairman has a job. But the crowd forgot about one thing. In the baker having to repair the window, he no longer has money to do what he originally had purposed to do with however much it was going to cost to fix the window. He now can no longer afford to buy new shoes for his children. And now the shoemaker is out of a job. So we're just kind of seeing some of the money moving around here. But it's not only the money being moved around, because now the baker doesn't have shoes and is out a window. So we are further back from where we started. If none of this hoodlum catastrophe had happened, the baker would still have a window. But now he is even farther back than where we started. So how does this apply to the H-1B visa policy? Let's go ahead and replace the baker or the main protagonist in this story with Amazon, who's one of the largest employers of H-1B workers. So because Amazon is able to employ these workers at a lower wage than some of the American workers, their cost of production is lower, which then gives you, the consumer, a lower cost as well. But one of the other things is there's many small businesses or many even larger businesses who rely on Amazon for supplies. And so maybe there is a baker who's buying bread bags from Amazon for their local bakery. But now there's been an increased cost to how expensive their bread bags are. What are they going to do with this increased cost? Well, they're going to shift it to the consumer. They're going to shift it to their consumer. Okay, this is how inflation happens. But another really important point here is that when there's an increased cost to that baker, okay, they're going to have a lower amount of people buying their bread. Well, they no longer are able to afford dance lessons for their daughter. So now the dance teacher is out of a job. Or maybe they were going to use that money to reinvest into their business, to grow it, and to employ more people. But now those people are out of a job. Or the people who are going to be buying bread from the baker, okay, well now they have to pay a higher cost. Now they can't get dance lessons or soccer tutoring for their children, or they can't grow their businesses. So inevitably, when we focus on this one specific field, when we focus on one small sector of the economy and ignore all the other sectors of the economy, that's where we have these logical fallacies coming into play. Now, the second reason that I think this will hurt the economy was actually also highlighted by a Heritage Foundation article. And that's, I think, what kind of helps show this split in the conservative movement. Companies, I believe, will end up relocating to where they no longer have to deal with the H-1B visa policy. And this is because we saw this in the past. After the dot-com boom, there was a huge need in the tech sector for tech workers. So the cap was moved from 65,000 to 195,000 for the years of 2001 through 2003. But after 2003, it was moved back down to 65,000. And James Shirk from the Heritage Foundation wrote an article outlining what some businesses did in order to mitigate this lowering of the cap. This was published in 2008, and it's titled More H-1B Visas, More American Jobs, A Better Economy by Guinevere Nell and James Shirk. Microsoft in 2008 decided to open a branch in Vancouver, Canada, to staff the 150 engineers who were not fortunate enough to get H-1B visas. A survey by the National Foundation for American Policy found that 65% of high-tech companies employed people outside the United States due to their inability to obtain H-1B visas. What can we learn from this? Well, we can learn that the private sector is going to do what they can to go where the work is cheaper. If Trump wants to bring all of the jobs to America, then the policy that he's putting in place is not going to do that. Companies will go to other places. Now, if you are in college and you've listened to everything that I'm saying and you're still worried about your job, you're still worried about the economy, I would encourage you, do not be. It is policies and like these that weaken the economy. But when we have H-1B visa workers here, that strengthens the economy for everyone. And what happens then? There's always going to be some sort of a need. Okay? Because when the economy is thriving, people have money to spend. They have dance lessons to get. They have soccer tutoring that they need. So there will always be plenty of need. So do not be worried about foreign workers coming to take your jobs and lowering your wages. All you truly need to do is look at the market, see where you are needed, and make yourself needed. The second thing I would like to encourage you about is that immigration is the perfect opportunity for evangelizing. We were commanded to go into all nations, baptizing them and making them disciples. And for many, many years, American Christians ignored that command. We have a rather low rate of missionaries compared to how many Christians we have. And in God's grace, He sent the nations to us. Okay, He sent the people that we are to evangelize to this country. This is a wonderful opportunity. We should take it, and we should thank the Lord for this amazing grace that He has given us. Now, all in all, the conservative movement is completely splitted, and there's a pretty good reason for that. I don't think that foreign workers coming to the United States is something that we need to be worried about in regards to the economy. I think that we should make sure that we're not just focusing on the window repairman and look at also the shoemaker. We should look at all aspects of the economy, and we should make sure that we are being efficient with our resources. That's my opinion about all of the H-1B visa policy controversy. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Beyond the Headlines. Come back next week for another episode.